They told her it was a closed-door hearing. No cameras, no press, no live stream, just a single white envelope slid under her office door in the early hours of Tuesday morning. The seal was from the United States Supreme Court. No signature, no return address. Just 7 words, bold and typewritten. Attendance required, no legal counsel permitted. Representative Jasmine Crockett stared at the envelope for nearly 2 minutes before opening it. It was unlike any congressional summons she had ever received. The wording was vague, intentionally so, but the location was specific. Room 303, Old Supreme Court Chamber. 9 a.m. Thursday. Subject: Judicial Misconduct Review, Non-Public Session, Judicial Misconduct. She wasn't a judge, and there had been no prior notice of disciplinary action in the House. But the language, evasive yet unmistakably threatening, told her everything. She looked up at the portrait of her father above her desk, the same photo they'd taken in front of the Dallas County Courthouse the day she passed the bar. Under her breath, she said, "If I don't show up, they'll say I ran. If I do, they better be ready." Thursday, 8:57 a.m. Washington, D.C. Room 303 was colder than expected. Not physically. The air was sharp, but emotionally cold, in that distinct way a room can be when no one wants you there. 9 chairs were occupied in a semicircle, robes pressed, expressions unreadable. At the center sat Chief Justice John Roberts, fingers steepled, lips drawn. Clarence Thomas on his left, Samuel Alito on his right. The others, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Barrett, Sotomayor, Kagan, Jackson, completed the arc. In front of them stood a single metal chair, gray, placed precisely 7 feet from the nearest justice. No desk, no microphone, no water, just the chair. The message was unmistakable. This was no discussion. It was a confrontation. No stenographer, no clerk, no official record. The door clicked shut behind her. "Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett," Roberts began without rising, "do you believe in the supremacy of law?" His tone wasn't inquisitive. It was declarative. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she sat slowly, placing her hands on her lap, eyes sweeping across the room. Not at Roberts, but at all of them. "I believe in law," she said. "That's why I'm here." 3 weeks earlier, a private meeting had taken place at a federal judiciary retreat in Williamsburg. No aides, no press, no minutes, just Roberts, Thomas, and Alito. Their concern wasn't policy or crime rates. It was a name, Jasmine Crockett. She'd been asking questions, sharp ones, about financial disclosures, offshore accounts, conflicts of interest. Worse, the public had begun to trust her. "She's turning legal integrity into a circus," Alito had said. "She's undermining public confidence," Thomas added. Roberts, always measured, said nothing for a long moment before posing a question. "Can we disqualify her?" Not from office. That would require action by the House, but from influence, from legitimacy, from public credibility. It began with a file. Confidential. Misuse of classified evidence. Just enough fabrication to seem credible. Then an internal review memo. Then an anonymous ethics complaint. Finally, the envelope. Back in room 303, the justices began their performance. "You were in possession of sensitive metadata during the July 12th hearing," Barrett said. "Do you deny this?" No response. "Did you receive documents from a whistleblower?" Alito followed. She tilted her head. "Were you aware that sharing classified content in a public hearing violates federal secrecy mandates?" Gorsuch pressed. She said nothing. Instead, she reached into her blazer and pulled out a single sheet of paper. Deliberate. Quiet. She placed it on the side table beside her. The document they accused her of leaking. It was dated July 10th, 2 full days before the hearing in question, but the metadata at the bottom showed a modification date, July 15th. Flagged for review, U.S. Marshals Data Recovery Unit. Signature. Unknown. Then she spoke. Who signed this? No one answered. The shift was immediate. The room had not changed, but its center of gravity had. In 10 minutes, Crockett had transformed from defendant to interrogator, not with volume or theatrics, but with clarity and proof. You said this hearing was about misconduct, she said. I agree. But you didn't summon me here to investigate. Mine. Kavanaugh leaned forward. And what exactly do you think this hearing is, Congresswoman? She met his gaze. I think it's a mirror, and I think the reflection is starting to scare you. Outside, no one knew the hearing was taking place. But echoes have a way of slipping through walls. It started with a photo. Crockett, folder in hand, facing 9 seated justices. Posted anonymously to X, captioned 9 versus 1, then a clip. 8 seconds long, grainy phone footage shot from behind a clerk's file. Justice Alito leaning toward Thomas, whispering, "She won't make it to re-election. 8 words. Enough to ignite a storm." By 10:53, it was trending. By noon, hashtags like Leatherspeak and Mer9v1 had overtaken every platform. Law professors weighed in. Veterans quoted the Constitution. Students cried. Something was happening. In the chamber, Roberts sensed it. Clerks outside moved faster. Aides whispered. A staffer leaned into his ear. His jaw clenched. Crockett noticed. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The public had entered the room without opening the door. Outside the courthouse, a crowd gathered. Not chanting, not yet, just standing. Someone held up a sign. She speaks for us. Let her finish. C-SPAN switched to breaking news. CNN canceled its midday segment. MSNBC looped the 8-second whisper. Even Fox News aired footage of the growing crowd. Back inside, Crockett produced a second document. This one, a notarized statement from a former Supreme Court clerk. In multiple instances, I witnessed off-the-record calls between seated justices and private campaign advisors. These conversations often preceded rulings aligned with donor interests. She read it aloud, slowly, then asked, "Will anyone here deny this?" No response. "I'm not the witness," she said. "You are now." Outside, someone tweeted the phrase. It exploded. A designer made a t-shirt. A jazz musician composed a solo. A pastor opened his sermon with the words, "Inside, Roberts tried to rein things in." "No press," he said. "This is becoming a spectacle." Crockett remained still. Let her speak. The crowd outside had begun to chant. A legal defense fund was created. By 3:07 p.m., it held $4.2 million. A second fund was announced, the People's Court Defense Fund, backed by major firms and an anonymous $1 million donor. A note was included. I was raised to respect the court, but I was also raised to recognize fear when I see it. And today, I saw 9 seats trembling before one chair. More followed. Small donations from all over. Petitions. Op-eds. One full-page newspaper ad read, "This courtroom belongs to the people now." Crockett stayed silent, then produced a chart. It detailed a decade of rulings by 6 justices in corporate cases, correlated with speaking fees and foundation ties. The red thread was undeniable. "It's not illegal to be rich," she said. "It's unethical to be influenced by it while pretending you're not." Gorsuch attempted a pivot. "Surely you understand precedent protects the court's independence." "Independence isn't immunity," she replied. "I'm not suggesting anything. I'm showing you data." Then came a murmur, a buzz. The chamber door opened. A clerk stepped in, whispered again to Roberts. This time, he stood. "This session is adjourned." He didn't look powerful. He looked cornered. Crockett gathered her documents and stood. At the door, she placed one final envelope on the table. No name, no seal, just 3 handwritten words. For the record. Outside, the doors opened. Thousands were waiting. No clapping, No shouting, just silent reverence. The veterans were first to salute. She returned it with a hand over her heart. That evening, back in her office, she received a flash drive. No note, no label. It contained spreadsheets, routing numbers, and one authorization slip. At the bottom, the signature of Clarence Thomas. The funds hadn't gone to education. They'd gone to a political consultancy, the same firm behind anti-oversight campaigns during midterms. She confirmed the signature. She gathered her team. "This isn't just unethical," said the accountant. "It's engineered laundering." "You're telling me that's a justice's signature?" the journalist asked. "I'm telling you," she said. "It's one of them." "You go public," said the former DOJ official, "and it won't just be a political war. It'll be institutional collapse." Crockett didn't blink. She had entered room 303 alone. Now she wasn't. Now it was the country. They told her it was a closed-door hearing. No cameras, no press, no live stream. Just a white envelope slid under her office door in the early hours of Tuesday morning. The seal was from the United States Supreme Court. No signature. No return. Address. 7 words, bold and typewritten, attendance required. No legal counsel permitted. Representative Jasmine Crockett stared at the envelope for 2 minutes before opening it. She'd seen congressional summons before. This wasn't one of them. The wording was vague, intentionally, but the location was clear. Room 303, Old Supreme Court Chamber. 9:40 a.m. Thursday. Subject: Judicial Misconduct Review, Non-Public Session. Judicial misconduct? She wasn't a judge. There'd been no disciplinary notice in the House. But the tone, calculated and cold, told her everything. She looked up at the framed photo above her desk, her and her father in front of the Dallas County Courthouse, the day she passed the bar. "If I don't show up, they'll say I ran," she muttered. "If I do, they better be ready." Thursday, 8:57 a.m. Washington, D.C. room 303 was colder than expected. Not the air, the mood. 9 justices sat in a semicircle, robes immaculate, expressions unreadable. Chief Justice Roberts at the center, Clarence Thomas to his left, Alito to his right. Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Barrett, Sotomayor, Kagan, Jackson, completing the arc. In front of them, one metal chair, gray, bare, precisely 7 feet from the nearest justice. No desk, no mic, no water. She understood immediately. This wasn't a discussion. It was a warning. The door clicked shut behind her. "Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett," Roberts said. He didn't rise. "Do you believe in the supremacy of law?" Not a question. A test. She sat slowly, hands folded in her lap. Her eyes met his, then scanned the others. "I believe in the law," she said. "That's why I'm here." 3 weeks earlier, a private judiciary retreat in Williamsburg. No aides, no press, no transcript. Just Roberts, Thomas, and Alito in a quiet corner room. Their topic wasn't policy or precedent. It was a name, Jasmine Crockett. She'd been asking too many questions about financial disclosures, secret accounts, undisclosed trips. The public had started listening. "She's turning legal integrity into a circus," Alito sneered. "She's eroding public trust," Thomas added. Roberts said nothing for a moment, then asked, "Can we disqualify her?" Not from Congress, too messy, but from influence, from legitimacy, from the narrative. It started with a file, confidential, misuse of classified evidence, then an ethics memo, an anonymous complaint, then the envelope. Now, back in room 303. "You were in possession of classified metadata during the July 12th hearing," Barrett said. "Do you deny it?" Silence. "Did a whistleblower give you the documents?" Alito asked. She tilted her head. "Were you aware that publicizing sealed evidence violates federal secrecy laws?" Gorsuch added. Still silent. Then, calmly, Crockett reached into her blazer and pulled out a sheet of paper. She placed it on the side table. It was the document they claimed she leaked. Dated July 10th, 2 days before the hearing. But at the bottom, metadata showed it was modified on July 15th, flagged for review, U.S. Marshals Data Recovery Unit. Signature, unknown. She looked up. Who altered this? No answer. The room shifted, quietly, the air now heavier. 10 minutes in, and she had gone from defendant to interrogator. You called this hearing misconduct, she said. I agree, but I'm not the subject here. Kavanaugh leaned forward. Then what exactly do you think this is, Congresswoman? She stared him down. I think it's a mirror, and I think the reflection is starting to scare you. Outside, no one knew the hearing was happening, but echoes slipped through cracks. A photo surfaced, Crockett standing before the 9, folder in hand, posted anonymously, captioned, verses 1, then an 8-second clip, grainy, a clerk's phone. Hidden behind a file, Justice Alito leaning toward Thomas. She won't make it to re-election. 8 words. By 10:53, it was trending. By noon, Let Her Speak and Dubber 9v1 flooded every platform. Law professors weighed in. Students cried. Veterans stood. A storm was forming. Back inside, Crockett spoke again. You said I had no legal right to... That document, she said. But your own clerk's timestamp proves otherwise. She pulled out a second paper, this one notarized, a sworn statement from a former Supreme Court clerk. I witnessed off-the-record calls between seated justices and political advisors. These often occurred days before rulings aligned with donor interests. She read it aloud, then asked, Will anyone here deny this? No one moved. I'm not. Your witness, she said. You're mine. Outside, someone tweeted it. You're the witness now. It exploded. T-shirts printed. Jazz solos composed. Pastors opened sermons with the line. Inside, Roberts stiffened. Clerks buzzed. Aides whispered. A staffer leaned in, his jaw clenched. Crockett noticed. She didn't speak. She didn't have to. The public was now in the room. Outside the courthouse, a crowd had gathered. Not chanting, not shouting, just standing. One held a sign. She speaks for us. Let her finish. C-SPAN cut to breaking news. CNN canceled its noon hour. Fox News looped the whisper. She won't make it to re-election. Back in room 303, Crockett produced a chart. 10 years of decisions from 6 justices, cases involving corporations, mapped against speaking fees and foundation donations. The overlap was blood red. It's not illegal to be rich, she said. It's unethical to pretend wealth doesn't whisper in your ear. Gorsuch cut in. Precedent protects the court's independence. She stared him down. Independence isn't immunity. Then the door opened. A clerk leaned in, whispered, To Roberts. This time he stood. This session is adjourned. He didn't look powerful. He looked cornered. Crockett stood, gathered her papers, and at the door left behind a final envelope. 3 words, handwritten, for the record. Outside, the doors opened. Thousands waited. No cheers, just silence. A few veterans saluted. She returned it with a hand to her heart. That evening, she received a flash drive. No label, no note. Inside, spreadsheets, routing numbers. 1 authorization slip. At the bottom, Clarence Thomas's signature. The money hadn't gone to education. It had gone to a political consultancy, the same firm behind anti-oversight ads in the midterms. This isn't just unethical, her accountant said. It's laundering. Strategized laundering. A journalist leaned forward. That's a justice's signature? Crockett nodded. No doubt. A former DOJ official sighed. If you go public, it won't just be political. It'll be institutional collapse. Crockett didn't blink. She had entered room 303 alone. Now she wasn't. Now it was the country.